Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. This is
Hello.
Waking the Dreamer. Am I Shaman? So if you signed up for that and that's where you intended to be, you're in the right place. My name is Allison Normore, and I welcome you today. So beautiful to see your faces. Now, I'd love it, because I see a lot of unfamiliar faces here. I'd love it if you put where you're calling in from in the chat box. I invite you to do that. Oh, and I see some familiar faces. Hi, Diane. Yeah, put your where you're calling in from in the chat box so people can see. There's quite a variety of places. So do your little check-in there. You can see where you're calling from. Beautiful. Welcome, welcome. So find your place as you arrive. I invite you, as I did the last time, to just imagine that we're gathering in a great circle. And that circle can be anywhere you like. We could be in a field of flowers. We could be in a woodland glen. We could be in a tent, in a great tent. But we're all gathering in circles. So I invite you to come and use your rich imagination to create such a beautiful place, a welcoming place, a safe and sacred place. Find your place in the circle. And you'll see in the middle of our circle here, it's a beautiful little altar. This altar represents the center, represents your center, and the center that we're creating today and that we're coming to gather around. There's a candle burning there. There's beautiful flowers. And in that center, you can place your own sacred object, whatever that might be. So just picture that beautiful little altar, the center of our circle. And if you feel called to, and you'd like to, light a candle right where you are now. I've got my candle lit here behind and open the sacred space for us today. And so first, a little, some agenda and housekeeping. If anyone has any technical issues, then feel free to raise your hand or put a note in the chat. And we have Catherine Mitchell here, who is supporting us in the background. And she will come and tend to any questions or issues that you might have. But for the most part, I'm going to be talking today. And if you have any questions that arise throughout the next hour, then I'm going to leave time at the end to address some of those questions. So, if you want to make a note of them as we're going through, something pops into your head, then hold on to those questions because they're beautiful. They're how your mind makes sense of things. And so curiosity is a gift of the feminine. So bring your curiosity, bring it on. So I'm so glad to be here with you again this week. And thank you all for coming. So I'm going to give a teaching first. The title of this session today is Animism and the Unifying Power of the Heart. I'll also in there be talking about consciousness, duality consciousness in particular. And also we'll be doing an exercise at the end. You have an experience of tracking energy. So tracking energy is one of the core shamanic skills to develop on the shamanic path. And so we'll have a little practice at that. And like I said, there will be time left at the end for any questions. So make sure you keep track of your questions. Okay, so I invite you now to take a nice deep breath in and let it go. Just letting go of whatever doesn't serve, whatever you don't need to bring to the session today, whatever it took to bring you here, can you just let it go? Just leave everything as if you would, at the door of our tent where we're gathering, or our circle. Like you might leave a stone at the door, your worries, concerns, the things that you have to do afterwards, whatever's on your mind. Just see if you can be now as open and available as possible for whatever is going to happen during this session. And remember the importance of intention. So my intention for all of you is that you're going to receive exactly what you need from today's session. So, animism. What is animism? The word anima and animism has the root of anima. And anima came first used in the Greek language, means soul. It also means spirit, that which is invisible. It also is connected with the word breath. And we know that our breath is the connection between our body and our spirit. It's what bridges the two. And the other way that anima is used is to indicate light, that which is light. And so at the core of shamanism, the core concept of animism is that everything is animated. Now we might find it easier, and I imagine that most of you here today, understand and have a working knowledge, or maybe not, wherever you are on that path is good. But you probably have a knowledge of the aura or the chakra system, also called the luminous energy field, which is that invisible part of us, that subtle energy field that contains the codes, actually informs and creates our physical body. So that idea of animating matter applies to everything in the shamanic worldview, and this is what I'm introducing you to here now, the shamanic universe. Everything is animated. Stones, trees, animals, plants, even things that we would consider to be inanimate, like say the furniture, the chair you're sitting on, the walls, your house. Now, in the past, you can imagine that generations and hundreds, thousands of years ago, those in the tribe, the shamans in the tribe or the village, who could see and perceive that invisible light that was behind the physical manifestation, might have been considered unusual, and indeed they were. They had the ability to see and to know and to work with that invisible realm. And what they did, no doubt, seemed very magical and perhaps even scary. Whereas to us modern folk, that seems less scary, because we have been introduced to and live in an age of advanced science, of quantum physics, that tells us that indeed all physical matter is light, is indeed animated. E equals mc squared is Einstein's equation that basically says that all matter is just light moving in at different speeds or frequencies. So that no longer seems as magical to us, though we're still drawn to that invisible realm. So everything is animated. Now, I would bet that many people here have, know about different kinds of energy modalities. There's been an explosion of energy modalities. Where we sometimes, need reminding, and what we're learning is that, the rest of the world is also animated. And the implications of that I see are threefold. They have to do with the relationship we have with the more than human world. And this is what we're on the precipice of now, of just moving into that huge understanding of our connection to the environment, to the rest of the animated world, particularly with nature. So I see that there are three levels of relationship that we can move into. The first is just connection, right? It's just understanding that in that quantum field, that invisible realm, we are all connected. We are all connected with light, by light. Light is what? Vibrating at different frequencies, different colors, visible and invisible. That is the world that we live in. So connecting, with each other and with the rest of the human world, that's the first level, is that opening to the possibility that we are connected and what might happen. The next level would be the level of communication, actually being able to communicate and to pass information back and forth between, of course, we know how to do that with other humans. And, we're learning that animals indeed have their own language. There's new research out there now showing about how trees and plants, communicate. So, so it's not so fantastical now, right? That we can actually speak with a tree, or we could commune with the wind and receive messages from these other, animated consciousness that are different than ours and communicate in different languages, but do indeed communicate with us. And then the third level, which is the level that we're all moving into now, and this is where it gets really exciting, is co-creation. Co-creation with the other more than human realms on the earth. And again, there's some science and research that's pointing us in that direction. In particular, I think of, the work around the fungus and the mushroom, and the ability of the mushrooms to communicate, and also for us to work with them to clean up some of the ecological messes that we've made. So that is a whole field of, huge discovery that we're stepping into now, which is a direct application of shamanistic and animistic principles at work. I believe that that's what's going to save us. That's what's going to save this earth and save us. So, so I'd like to talk a little bit now about duality. And of course, again, I may be speaking to the choir here. So for those of you who this is old news, and this will be a review, but we live in a multidimensional universe. And I will be talking more about multidimensionality in the next class. But for now, to just acknowledge that we live in a third dimensional reality. The physical world that we walk in is third dimension. And at this level, we have duality. It's a necessary aspect of physical manifestation. We have to have duality. So we have, up, down, day, night, male, female, good, evil, all of those things that our mind uses to make sense of and to function in a physical universe. And we use our mind. Our mind also, and our brain is actually organized and evolve to function and help us function in duality consciousness. So we have a left brain and a right brain, and they both have different functions and different ways of operating and processing information. But one of the things that our brain does is help us see things as separate, right, from ourselves. So there's me and there's you. There's us and there's them. And it's, you know, implicit in our language and in the way that we operate in the world to see. And we need to be able to see. We need to be able to differentiate. You know, it's one of the big psychological tasks, right, of individuation, of developing a sense of who we are as separate and different from everyone and everything else. However, we are now at a huge shift of consciousness on the planet, that of ascending consciousness, where our consciousness and our ways of thinking and behaving are evolving. And part of that evolution is the ascension of our consciousness, the moving up in the dimensions of reality to a higher dimensional functioning. And where we're moving is towards fourth and fifth dimensionality. And so living in and operating in this duality consciousness, is why we've gotten here and why we're still here today. We've been playing and exploring with infinite choice, with infinite potential, and creating, right? And creating, and everything, and the world that we've created is a result of, that third dimensional consciousness that's brought us to where we are. But we are now evolving past that. And in order to do that, we have to start connecting with our heart. This is the work that we're doing now, because the mind functions in duality consciousness, which is it's supposed to do, and the heart functions in unity consciousness. Our heart is what is able to bridge those dualities and to move to a more unified and more inclusive way of being and thinking in the world. So one of the principles of the shamanic path and of the shamanic worldview is that the universe is actually benign. The universe is neutral. It does not is not good or evil. Evil exists only in the hearts and in the minds, mostly in the minds of humans, of men and women. And what we have created in terms of imbalance and destruction and suffering on the planet has been a result of that duality consciousness, where power over or better than or different than has been our main way of thinking and perceiving and functioning on the earth. But for this next step, this quantum leap in evolution, we are evolving into a new species of human. And my teacher, Alberto Villado, refers to that or speaks to that person as Homo luminous. And other teachers use a different term. But we are evolving into a higher form of our own human self. And so in that benign universe, when we are in right relationship, with ourselves and with each other and with the greater universe, then that universe, the universal energy, will conspire on our behalf. Everything just flows. Everything that we need is provided. So this is the work of the shamanic practitioner, or the person who's on a spiritual path, we might say, to be in right relationship. And I talked about that in the last class, a little bit about right relationship. From my Peruvian teachers, they refer to this concept as Ayni, A-Y-N-I. And Ayni is reciprocity, it's sacred relationship, and it's another word for that right relationship. So I'd like to speak just a moment about the heart and the heart field. Um, our heart and the field of energy of, you know, you know, in our chakra system, you know, we have higher chakras and we have lower chakras, and our heart is at the center. And research has shown that the electromagnetic field that emanates from the heart is vastly more powerful than anything that can be created with the mind. So our heart is that place when we connect with and when we cultivate a heart-centered way of living. And there are practices to do that. I'm sure many of you know them. To start bringing the heart and the mind into coherence, to integrate them, to bring them into right relationship. And when we come into that right relationship, our field expands. We are then able to tap into that power, that magnificent power of the heart. And that field, again, is, you know, alive, it's animated, it's light, and light is information. Light contains, again, this is quantum science and quantum physics. Within our field, you know, we have so much information. All the codes are contained there. And also, and this is perhaps the most important for you who are exploring the shamanic path, is that it's our heart that connects us to Gaia, the heart of the earth, the great cosmic mother, you know, however you understand that divine feminine energy, you know, it's through the heart. That's where we connect. So after talking about this now, you know, about our power that's contained, you know, in our field, and particularly when we activate our heart and learn to live and begin to come into right relationship with the universe so it can conspire on our behalf, then we have, this is part of the work of shedding the past, is calling back the power that we have lost. Now, this is, again, a very big topic in the shamanic world, but I will say that there are two, you know, main types of power loss, reasons why we lose our power. One is that we give it away. We give our power away. And the other is that it can be taken from us. And we all, to some extent, will have power loss related to, you know, one or both of those things, probably both, when you look at different lifetimes and what we're bringing in this time. So when I'll give a couple of examples of power loss. So one way that we give away our power is, you know, for survival reasons, for safety, for security, for comfort. You know, all we make, as they would say, we make deals with the devil, right? That I will, you know, I will give you my power. I'll let you take my power in return for something. And so we all have, you know, many contracts that we've made, you know, throughout our experience here on Earth. And so understanding what those contracts might be, you know, is one of the parts of healing and being able to, you know, bring back your power or take back your power. Understanding the conditions under which you have given away your power to other people and to other things as well. And also we can lose power through our ancestral and karmic lines. So, you know, either in other lifetimes, which I've been speaking about, and also, you know, we carry the lineage of our ancestors. And so we can bring forward, you know, along that family line, along that genetic line, things like, you know, curses and ancestral imprints, beliefs, lots of other, there's lots of ways that we can let our power can be gone. And like I say, this is a vast topic, and certainly can't cover it now, but I will, there's curses and there's cords and, ways that, feeding tubes, things like that, that we can have set up within our field that is draining our power. And also it can be stolen. We might call this sorcery. This would be, by someone who either consciously or unconsciously, intended us harm. So in traditional villages, and still in shaman school, we did this, it's to look, through in your field and track and identify, anything, like, usually things when people intend you harm, it can show up in your field, like, daggers or swords or knives or, things like that, embedded in the luminous energy field, and they need to be cleared. So, that's the fun stuff, I say, with a little bit of a grin. Some of that is, it's powerful work, to start clearing the energy from our field so that we can embody and call back all of our light, right? So, just to say, when we come in, when we're born, we have a beautiful rainbow body, a beautiful rainbow light. And then we come into this very dense, this is the lowest frequency universe that we could, be embodied in. And so it doesn't take long, for our little luminous rainbow bodies to become clouded and gray and toxic, because there's so much toxicity, both physical and mental and emotional. And so unfortunately, as we grow older, our, unless we've, been doing our work, and it is a constant continuing practice to clear your field and to clear it of, all the toxic sludge, right? And this sludge in particular gets, builds up in the chakra wells. So I'm gonna teach you or show a simple practice that you can do to start clearing out your chakras. But before that, I just want to remind you and make this real. If you would think about, for example, somebody who has, an experience you've had with someone who's been very, very angry with you. And particularly if you're sensitive, but all of us can feel and can remember how that feels to have somebody really angry. And when we project anger towards another person, we are actually harming them. And we might not be doing that consciously. But whenever we project, a heavy, dense energy towards another, or we, have a powerful thought that's emotionally charged of wanting to cause them harm or wishing them dead, that kind of thing. These actually are felt and register in the field of the person to which you sent it. And that could be as simple as, having somebody, being in traffic and having, somebody get really angry, send and project heavy energy towards you, anger. So that kind of thing, and if we're not onto it, that stuff lives in our field and can be brought forward into this lifetime from previous lifetimes. And that stuff, interferes with our ability to show up fully in the world with all of our light, with all of our information and our code and our skills and our gifts intact. So, so dealing with this stuff, this is, comes under the category of shedding your past, becoming clear, free, and available for life now. That's that part of the shamanic path. So, so I hope you're all still with me here. You got, there's probably lots of questions going to come up as a result of this. So, just hold on to them, write them down. And now what I would like to do is to lead you in a practice that may seem deceptively simple, but as I said, that this practice of working to clear your chakras is, there's a lot going on here. For one thing, you're learning to track energy. You're learning to be able to detect and to intuit and also sense with your ordinary senses, as well as with your non-ordinary senses, what's going on, what is happening in your field. And it's always best to start with yourself before you start doing it with someone else. And I have a sense that in this group there will be a range of skills and experience with tracking energy. So I would like you to take a nice big deep breath now, because I've just been talking a lot and sharing a lot of information. And like I said, you may have questions that are arising from that. So I invite you to take a nice big deep breath. And your breath is a wonderful way to move energy, and that's again another whole area of work. And so taking a nice deep breath and letting it go. And just, with the in-breath, drawing in light from the horizon, from the earth, from the heavens, starlight, sunlight, bringing in light. And on the exhale, just sending that light, that anything that's heavy, letting go of any density, any low vibrating energies, just sending it back out. I mean, in fact, that's an intervention right there. I spend a lot of time just doing that. So just letting things go, right? Just letting things go with your breath, let your breath carry it. But now I'm going to teach you a practice that actually, saved my life when I first started this shamanic path, and all this was so new, and I was becoming aware of so much. I would feel overwhelmed. I worked for 10 years as a child therapist at a treatment center for traumatized children. These were children who could not live in a regular home, and they could not attend a regular school. So a tremendous amount of trauma. And some of it, something we couldn't even imagine that those little ones had. So it was very dense and heavy work. And I would leave there at the end of the day, and, I would start as soon as I got outside and in my car. All the way, I had to drive about 20 minutes to get back home. And all the way, I would be doing this practice, breathing, and also the practice I'm going to teach you is backwashing your chakras. And so you don't have to know a lot about the chakra system. You're just going to be guided intuitively here. And, the chakra system, is as many teachers say now, being upgraded anyway. We have new chakras coming online. But we're just, for now, if you would just like to work with the 7 chakras in your body, starting with the root, which is, either between your legs or down at your pubic bone. And then the second one is just below your belly, about 2 finger widths, that's your sacral. And I won't do a teaching on the chakras right now, but I just want you to be intuitively guided. Now, quick luminous field operation, which we will go into in more advanced classes, and particularly in the fall. But the chakras spin, they're wheels of light, and they spin in a clockwise direction, which is the direction of creation. Our universe spins in a clockwise, the Milky Way is clockwise, our DNA spins in a clockwise, this is the direction of creation. And so what you do is you work through the chakras, sensing for where there's heaviness. And, I would just start with the root and work my way up. Or if there's a place that your attention is being drawn right now, where there feels like there's tightness or constriction or heaviness or some sensation, that you can start there. You can start anywhere. But you're going to use your hand, and you can use your whole hand, or you can just use 2 fingers. And you're going to spin them counterclockwise. So when we spin our chakras, the opposite direction, we're actually clearing out or backwashing that well of light. And what you're going to do is, counterclockwise, just as a quick little tip here, is towards your right shoulder. So that's if you're wondering which direction, and that would be towards your right shoulder, is counterclockwise. So just begin, using your hand or, your senses that, where you're feeling some heaviness or constriction. I'm being drawn to work on my solar plexus here, just near my ribs, below my ribs. And just begin spinning your fingers or in that towards your right shoulder, right? So, it's just going round and round. And as you feel the heaviness, and you will with practice, you'll be able to sense any, it'll like stick to your fingers, because remember your fingers, we're electromagnetic, right? So your fingers will pick up anything that's heavy, dense, and use your breath. Use your breath, moving in and out, and flicking it either to your candle. If you have lit a candle, flick it to the candle, because the light will transform it, will transmute it, or towards the earth, and let Mother Earth transmute it. And I should say, before we do this, I meant to do this and forgot, that I want to remind you and just invite you to feel this circle of light that is all around you. That I've called in the 4 sacred directions here: Mother Earth, Father Sky, and for protection, and to protect this space. So see yourself surrounded with a sphere of light, held by the great protectors, the forces of creation, the great visionaries in the East, the great medicine makers and healers in the South, the great protectors and transformers in the West, and in the North, the journeyers, the great journeyers, the ancestors, those who've come before us, those who'll come after us, the ancient ones. And beneath us, all the loving, protective, healing forces of Mother Earth, of Gaia herself. And above us, the light bringers, great sun, great cosmic sun, great spirit. As you do this work of just clearing, backwashing, wherever you feel that heaviness, and wherever you feel a sensation of dark energy. And if you're visual, you can picture it, as a dark gray color. But again, just using your extrasensory abilities here. And like I say, you can have also your regular senses, like, you can feel things as heat and light, as sensation. And everyone has different extrasensory skills and abilities. So I'm just here now, I'm just backwashing and flicking to the earth any heaviness in my field. Using your breath, nice deep breath in, nice deep breath out. Remembering that the universe wants to support us, right? The universe and all its power is here for us. While we're waking up and remembering that we're meant to be here. This is our garden we came to play in. And yes, we've mucked it up. And so we've got some cleaning up to do. But we're not alone in that cleaning up process. We're not alone. We have so much support. So much support. All the forces of creation, of nature, of heaven and earth are here. The great archangels, the ascended masters, in the invisible realms. We have so much, luminous support from the great luminous ones, the lineages of those, the wisdom keepers and those great healers. In all spiritual traditions, we have the great masters who came. And in shamanism, we open to all of that. There is nothing that gets left out. Oh, we can't forget, I'm being reminded as one taps me on the shoulder here, we can't forget the fairy folk and all those little people, right, who inhabit the realms and who are great masters, inhabit the realms of earth and inner earth, and are here, will show themselves on this plane when we show ourselves trustworthy. So yeah, we have so many. And so not to take it all so seriously, there's time. We have all the time we need to do this work and to get back into right relationship, with the creation again. And this is the hope and the possibility, right, that has brought each of you here to this session today, and has brought each of you here to this earth at this time, because you've spent so many lifetimes, preparing, right? So you could be here for this great shift of the ages, when everything would change. The Mayans say it's a time of turning over, right? When the earth will turn over. Now, whether or not that's going to be a physical turning over, it might be, the whole magnetic field is due, way overdue for a big shift. And so indeed it might manifest like that as well. But certainly the shift, is at the level of our consciousness, shifting from duality consciousness, of separation, of being, us and them, which has led to so much conflict and wars and suffering on this planet, moving towards a unified place where we understand and have compassion and we lift each other up. And first we do that by lifting up and doing our work of reconnecting with Gaia, with the Great Mother, and with all her kingdoms. And then all of life, we lift it up. With our own healing, we lift up the earth, and we lift up each other. Okay, so continue to do any clearing, backwashing there, and if there's anything, been triggered, then from this set, feel free to send me a message or, seek out any other kind of help, and I'd be happy to support anyone who has, any questions or things being triggered by what's been shared here today. So just know that you are loved and supported. So, as I said, you can continue to do that, and I'm just going to shift now and see if there's any questions, if anybody has any questions, and I'm going to ask Catherine if she would check for me. Not quite sure if I have I'll have to see if Catherine, are you there, Catherine? You check, see if there's any questions in the chat box. Anybody putting questions in?
I'm here, Allison. I don't see any.
Okay, all right then. Well, that's good. Or not sure. Okay, all right. So,
oh, hang on. I see a question.
okay.
Yeah, how about clearing spaces?
Yes, clearing spaces. There's so many ways of clearing spaces. And some of the tried, and again, you can use, any of the elementals here. So the green ones, the green people, the plants in particular, sage, Palo Santo, any of the sacred herbs will clear your space. Salt is a great cleanser. Salt. Anything that you do to shift the energy of a space. If I were going, I use all of the above. I mean, I use my sprays that I've created, my spirit water, to cleanse spaces, opening the windows and letting the air blow through, getting the sunlight in, I mean, you know, you don't have to buy anything to cleanse your space. You can cleanse your space with light. There's a light invocation that I use all the time. And I, you know, regularly, my meditations are working with light. And so I don't need, you know, to buy anything, though I also use, it depends. Sometimes I'm thinking, okay, I need some heavy duty smoke in here, you know, to cleanse out and to clear the energy. But you can, you know, water, clean, like literally, like, you know, I mopped my floors this morning, right, as a way to prepare the space, to clear the space. So all cleansing things, you know, and particularly using natural things. I'm all for using nature, right? Bringing sunlight in, invoking light, invoking ascended masters, the angelic realms to come and to clear space. So yeah, many different ways, and lots of ways to do that. And we use them all. We use them all in the shamanic path. Yeah. Good
Thank you,
question.
Allison. We have a few more. So let me ask, let's see, does clearing the chakras in the front also clear the back openings?
I would say yes, that particularly if it's your intention. Remember, you're working with your field of energy. And while some people might say, oh, you know, you should do the back, like I always, when I'm smudging, I will, it's easy to do the front and not so easy, but I will, you know, I will turn around, right? Hold the smoke and make sure I get some around my backside as well. When you're working with the luminous energy field, you can intend that you're working real deep into the well, which actually is clearing both the back and the front. So remembering, you know, not to be, you know, we have to have one foot in the literal, in the physical world, and one foot in the energetic. But to remember that consciousness and intention is the most powerful thing of all. And that we are working with energy which exists outside of time and space, is not limited, right? So this is kind of the mental shift that that you do, and that just becomes natural when you and for some of you, I suspect it's probably already natural. I'm just making it conscious for you, right? So that we're working at both levels. We have to, certainly, we can't ignore the physical. Like, you know, if you have, you know, an infection, or, you know, you've broken, you know, something, like, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it at the physical. And that's when we're really, you know, glad that we have, you know, medical services and doctors who have, you know, the ability to set things right and to clear up that. So we're always dealing at multiple levels. And that's the thing I'd want to say about clearing the back chakras. I probably said more than I needed to there, but I'd rather say too much than not enough. So hope that answered that question. It's a good one.
Thank you. And the next, yeah, there's a couple more. You can let me know when to stop, Allison. Okay, I'll just keep reading them to you until you tell me we're out of time.
Okay.
Okay, do we consciously make deals that give away our power?
Of course we do. Of course we do. And I bet, I mean, you know, I'm just trying to think of one from my own life where I consciously, yeah, I did it. And I'll tell you, and that when in relationships, I've done it in relationships with partners, and with, you know, my, you know, yeah, I won't name names, but in several of my long-term relationships, you know, with men, I now, how conscious was I? I was partly conscious. I mean, I knew what I was doing. I was trading my my freedom and my what would I say? My ability to do what I wanted to do in return for security. And we make lots of deals like that, you know, so yeah, and particularly maybe not in this lifetime, but, you know, I'm sure that all of us will have some experience somewhere, some story that lives within us, where we traded our freedom and our power for survival. so that we could survive. So yes, we do it consciously as well as, and the thing is, it's not about judging ourselves. It's about understanding and bringing compassion to those times, and those ways in which we have given up our power, where we've forgone our ability to speak our truth, to be who we really are, in return for some type of security, financial, emotional security or comfort. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. I would say unequivocally yes.
Thank you. And there's a request for you to share a light invocation with us. Maybe you can do that in the Facebook group.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. Yeah, I will post one in the Facebook group. That's a light invocation to working with the archangels. Yeah, Archangel Michael in particular.
Okay, and I just posted in the chat a link to the Facebook group in case some folks still aren't a member there. So that's a quick link to join.
Yes.
Okay, and oh, are we done for questions?
If there's one more quick one, and then I want to move on.
Well, I can't tell whether it's quick or not, so I'll leave that to your judgment. Is it possible that someone has a portal opening through a chakra or core of the body?
Okay, so portal is a little, I'm not quite sure what you might mean there. I mean, often the way I would use portal, you can certainly have feeding tubes are often connected to chakras. So you might call that as an opening, but your energy is being siphoned off by usually, they're not in physical form, but certainly entities. That is a common thing, particularly you see it in addictions and other situations as well, where there are beings that do not have our best interest at heart, and that we have either consciously or unconsciously allowed them to siphon off our energy. So in that way of a portal, you may have the person who asked that question may have another meaning, but that would be what I would offer. If that doesn't answer your question, or you have something else in mind, then feel free to put that in the Facebook group, and I'll do my best to answer it there. Okay, so I would just like to spend our last minutes now just offering a contemplation, something for you to think about when it comes to animism and the invisible realms. I'd like you to think about your own experience and awareness of the invisible realms. For example, in nature, your experiences in nature, your experience with disembodied spirits, for example. Also your connection to and sense of the energy of place, both and of people. Now, we all have that sixth sense. It is said that within something like 3 or 4 seconds of meeting, maybe less, of meeting somebody, we know whether we trust them or like them or not. It happens very quickly. It's instinctual. So we have these systems, these intuitive and instinctual ways of knowing are part of our hardware. We were born knowing this, but we may not have cultivated, and most of all, we may not have learned to trust it. We may have denied it, suppressed it. I did, most of my growing up and adult life, and until I had my spiritual awakening, that stuff I just, I was barely aware of. So there are ways of that you tap into, where you know without knowing how you know. You might not be able to explain it. And you may find yourself trying to justify how you know what you know, right? Those kinds of situations. So I'd like you to reflect on that. those kinds of knowings that you have and abilities that you have that perhaps you haven't cultivated. And it's a whole lot of fun, I have to tell you. Beginning to practice and to remember, how much you know and how you can strengthen and develop those skills. And then for a deepening exercise, so, I invite you to use your course guide and make some reflections in there. That course guide was developed and intended to help you go deeper, right? So not just hear the information at the mental level, but also to, to explore and to go deeper. So as a deepening exercise for this week, I'm going to invite you, since I assume that for many of you on this call, you're in the Northern Hemisphere and it's beautiful summer, to spend some time going back to what I talked about the implications of animism, the implications of that assumption and that reality that everything has consciousness and is waiting for you to acknowledge it and to interact and to communicate with it, that you have a dialogue or you have an encounter. Let's just say maybe an encounter rather than a dialogue, which suggests that, people talking. And it is okay to use your words when you talk to a tree or to a river or to a blade of grass, for example. It's okay. But then to pay attention to how that other being responds, because I promise you, they will. So this will be an exercise in using your own intuitive, subtle sensing, attentiveness, using, all of your physical senses, what you see, what you hear, and what you feel, and to engage in that and to just see what happens. Just play with it. Just play with it, but give it some time this week to connect with the more than human world. That's what I'm inviting you to do. And what I'll tell you, there is a key. There is a key. And it comes back to the other topic and the other point I made in this talk today, which is about the power of the heart. So connecting, when you connect with the more than human world, remember, it's not your mind that's going to have the capability of doing that. Because the mind's going to go, oh, did it happen? Did it not happen? Did I imagine it? Or maybe I made that all up, and your mind's just going to go back and forth. Because remember, it exists in duality consciousness. That's its function, right? To help you operate in the world with some efficiency. However, it's your heart. So I invite you to connect with whoever, whatever calls, get your attention, and to connect with your heart and see what happens. So with that, I'm going to thank you so much for being here today and for joining me and for listening, and remind you that the next week, the topic is multidimensionality and journeying. And of course, journeying is, again, one of those core practices and skills that we develop on the shamanic path. So I look forward to seeing you next week and wish you a very beautiful week, and enjoy the summer or whatever the weather is where you are. Enjoy the week, and I will see you on next Tuesday. Okay, take good care, everyone. Much love. Blessings.
Thanks, Allison.
Bye.